doing that to curb appetite, and it worked. And the weight just fell off. And in less than a year, I was down, Nick, from 345 to in less than a year down to like 240, which was crazy.
Welcome into another edition of Cousins Conversations. Another great week, another great conversation. And you might have seen me on his podcast multiple times. We have Tyler Jones here. Like you said, we're good friends from KU, stayed friends through this whole time. Like we said, also, you have a podcast, Jones Report. You do Let's Go Racing with David Starr. But recently, you added many more titles to your resume, and I wrote them down so that I didn't forget them. You're a publisher of Roundtable Sports, columnist for Last Word on Sports, Locked On Thunder podcast, and then your tune-in college basketball coast-to-coast hosting job. What excites you about these new opportunities that you just have?
Cousin, it's great to be here. I'm glad that we could finally make this happen. He's been badgering me for weeks about coming on the show, and I said, Nikki, give me a little bit of time. Let me get my stuff organized, announced, and you'll get the first extensive interview after everything has been put in place. And so now we've made that happen. But nonetheless, it's an exciting time, Nick. I look at the way that our industry has gone, and we have become I would say, industry of freelancers. And now I'm fully embracing that. I'm taking control. I'm being my own boss. I'm working for who I want to work for and doing it from where I want to do it, how I want to do it, and having that freedom, that control. And to me, that's exciting. It's exhilarating, not having to depend on anybody else and not having to answer to anybody, while also producing good work and doing a variety of different things and doing not what is forced for me to do, but what I want to do as well. There's a joy that comes out that. So I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed to have the platform I have, to work with the people I'm working with, and to see where this next chapter and opportunity grows from here, man. It's unreal, and it's only just the beginning here, man.
That's what we're looking for in this new space of media, digital media, whatever you want to call it. Just freelancing, doing podcasts, things like that. That's the new medium. That's, why I'm on here talking to you, starting this, only 12 episodes in, but we're growing. With that, what inspired you to go this route?
That's a very good question. And because I have always had a entrepreneurial mindset of sorts throughout my entire life. I've wanted to work in the sports media space since I was basically out of the womb. I knew this was my calling to do.
I mean, just look at I guess not look at you, but listen to your voice. I mean, you were born. You were born for it.
Once it was clear I wasn't going to play in the National Football League, but I enjoyed talking about sports, we had to pivot to the next best thing, and that was covering the game. And so that, is kind of where I start, right? It's the love and passion for the work and for the game itself. And then, I go around and I've seen, kind of just, working for different entities. Okay, what's their goals and where do they want to go from here? And it's always about benefiting them and kind of sitting under their wing of sorts. And I got to a point where I said to myself, I've had enough of that. I've had enough of making everybody else money and, trying to, satisfy their needs and their investors. That why can't I just do this? Why can't I just take control of still being that voice in the content space and doing what I love, but also having that power and having that go directly back to me? And, I got a point too where I'll be honest, I was a bit frustrated that I wasn't getting to do the things I wanted. I wasn't getting to go to all the places that I could go. Wasn't getting to cover all the things that I wanted to. And now I get to a point where instead of being forced to tell somebody no, I can still say no to somebody. But now it's ultimately my choice of what makes the most sense. And I'm excited about that. And just to see where this all takes, I mean, cause I grew up in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, just outside of Tulsa. Grew up a big fan of the Oklahoma Sooners, watching NASCAR every week, and now I get to cover those teams cover those Oklahoma for the first time on a full-time basis ever. NASCAR I've covered before, but never on a full-time basis like I am now. So I'm finally getting to do what I want. And so it's those things. It's not only having power and control of the destiny that I'm pursuing, but also being in position of doing what I want to do. And it's exhilarating. And I'm getting to work with people that I know, that I trust, and giving others opportunity, hiring staff and making this all happen. It's a thrill, man.
Boomer.
Sooner,
There you
you
go.
know how it is.
When you were going through that frustrating time, as a friend, I was very happy for you because you were growing yourself personally. You lost a bunch of weight. You gave up a couple other things. So just talk me through that journey of, losing all that weight and just bettering yourself.
So it's interesting, because I look at just where I'm at towards the end of 2025. It's almost Thanksgiving and the holidays and all that already. Crazy enough.
Time flies.
And exactly, to think where I'm at now compared to what I was 2 years ago around this time. And that's when everything kind of started, was around this time 2 years ago. And I was in a situation where I needed to find myself. I needed to discover myself because I knew that there was a better version of Tyler Jones out there. But I needed to prove it to myself to find who that was. And so it started with taking care of my health. And I cut back to one meal a day and just made a point. Like I was weighing at my peak about 345 pounds. And I didn't even like to look at myself. And I've always been a confident guy, but I knew that was holding me back from whether it was my career aspirations or with the women or several different things. I wasn't my full self of what I could be. And so, I made that point like, hey, I don't have a ton of time to work out, but I can start with eating better. And so cut back to one meal a day. And I was zenning. This is not a paid endorsement for Zen, by the way. This is just a fact, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that to curb appetite, and it worked. And the weight just fell off. And in less than a year, I was down, Nick, from 345 to in less than a year down to like 240, which was crazy. It just went
Awesome.
all so fast. And then it continued, and I'm now down to the lowest weight I've been in my entire adult life, really since high school, at 180 now,
Wow.
which
Slim
is
Jones.
crazy.
Slim
Yeah,
Jones.
sitting at 6'2", 180. And now, like, I've seen, the difference in my career and, how people view me and some of the opportunities that have opened up since then. The luck with the ladies has certainly helped a lot. A lot more matches on the dating apps these days than previously. Like that was just, I mentioned finding myself. That was all right. I got to do this. I mentioned some of those goals and some of those things out there, but a lot of it was just for me, just so I could feel better about myself. And it certainly paid off, and I'm proud of myself for doing it and the rewards that came with that. And, for the record, I didn't use anything like Ozempic or anything like that. I've had to, dispel those rumors thousands of times. And, I'm not shaming anybody. If that's something you do, by all means, take care of yourself, whatever. But that's not anything I did. I didn't work out much, hardly at all. Just cut back on eating and made better choices and now I feel great about it, and I'm in the best shape that I've been. So it's been a journey, but it's been one that's been rewarding.
Yeah, one meal a day is crazy because I'm always snacking all the time. So that's hard to believe. But I am proud of you. What did it ultimately take, though, for you to actually put this into motion and then follow through on it?
You know, I'll be frank with you, Nick. As I went through the years, I was always afraid of the scale. Um, just being real with y'all. I hated stepping on a scale and looking at that number. And to me, like, that was I avoided. I think part of the reason why I gained weight too was I didn't want to step on a scale and realize how heavy I was. And finally, I got to a point. I said, hey, if I'm going to go through this, then I need to step on. I need to have a scale and be checking, my weight and following it. So that was one of the very first things I did. Was I kind of overcame my fear of sorts and got the scale, put it in the bathroom, and I weighed myself every single day, every morning, every night, and tracked the progress every single day. And I kind of got over that, and I got excited as the days and weeks went on of seeing that number continue to drop, drop, drop. And what went from a fear of mine became an excitement for me to see that ultimately happen and to be where I'm at now, and just setting like certain goals in mind throughout the process. I had events I was traveling to and places I was going, and I would say, all right, I want to get to this weight before this trip, or I want to get to this weight before this time of year, and just setting those goals and continuing to be consistent and produce. And it was a challenge, but it was certainly worth it. And now I'm back to kind of just enjoying myself in a normal aspect. I'm eating 2 or 3 meals a day again. I don't have the appetite I used to before, so I'm not gorging myself, but finding those happy mediums. Not drinking regular pop too often. I have come to learn to enjoy Coke Zero and Pepsi Max, which I would have never touched in a prior life before. Certain things like that. You just change over time, adapt and evolve, and I'm proud of myself to see how far I've come.
Proud of you as well. How are you feeling though? Like day to day, you just like wake up and just feel better, or what is that? Just that euphoric feeling around the goals that you've accomplished personally?
So at first, I would say in that first year when uh, I had lost the weight because I was only taking 1 meal a day and not consuming too many calories, I would get tired much easier. And I would find myself, at the end of the day, not wanting to do anything, just sit there and watch TV and relax, compared to I've always been a go guy all the time of, being out late or hanging out with friends, whatever it may be. Like I always try to do something every single weekend of sorts. And so my energy just started to fall off a bit. But I just use that as time to kind of adapt and adjust and grow up a little bit more in that sense. I still go out with friends and enjoy myself, a lot, but just kind of had to change some habits, some sorts that, hey, I'm not 21 anymore. I'm 28. I'm 29 now, in that sense. So, my energy kind of fell off a bit, but, just kind of waking up and not being sore in certain spots, that was all good. And after all that, like I just felt so much better about myself, and woke up, feeling great. I mean, there's some adjustments of things of sorts, that my body has gone through. Just being frank, I've dealt with like some back pain issues and stuff like that since this has gone on. But at the end of the day, it's certainly been worth it, and I feel the best I've felt my entire adult life now.
Love that. If you were going to give advice to somebody who wanted to go on the same journey that you did, wanting to lose a bunch of weight, what would you say to them to keep that goal going?
I would say that the thing is make a plan and stick to it. For me, it was the 1 meal a day thing. For other people, it could be, they're going to be the workout warrior of sorts. and go about, losing weight that way. Whether it's a diet they go on or something, I would say just find a plan for you and stick with it and keep going about it that way. Like, you're going to see your hard work pay off if you're investing in yourself. And, I'm not one of these people, Nick, at all that promotes, self-love and, you're going to do this for me and you got to love yourself or anything like that. That's not me at all. But I think that what I've thought about in all this is me taking care of myself. It's not just an investment in me and my career, but it's also an investment in others too. I want to be around, live into my hundreds, and have, kids and grandkids and great grandkids and, be there for my future wife, someday and those things. And, like there was a realization of sorts, I got to take care of myself if I'm going to be there for other people. They're going to depend on me and be there. And so that's one thing I would say. Don't, think about what you're doing to help out others and just for your future down the road too.
How have others responded to your weight loss, just habits in general, now that you've improved yourself?
Oh, it's been fantastic. The funniest thing is when I see people I haven't seen in a long time, and they come up to me. They're like, "What happened to you, man? Where'd half of you go? You lost a person." And it's crazy to think about. Some people don't even recognize me. Like, what happened here? With Tyler. And so that's been funny to see all that realized. But I would say too, like, you do find out who your true friends are in all this. I would say this for the people watching or listening to this show. A guy like Couzin, he's a one-of-one type guy, right? I mean, I say this wholeheartedly. That's a guy I love, right? And Cuz, yes, love you too. Cuz, was hanging out with me and having a good time when I was, pardon my French, a fat ass. He didn't care, but here I am now, and that didn't change the perspective. There's some people that would not have had anything to do with me, or even given me the time of day of sorts, when I was that way of sorts, or just see you in a different gravitas of sorts. Like a guy like Couzin does not view me any different. He's proud of me, sure, for what I've been through, but like our friendship has not changed, or he didn't decide to be my friend more so just because I lost weight now. So to me, that's something to think about, is just how that changes, how people view you in that sense. You kind of see a lot of the superficialness of the world of sorts.
Yeah, like you said, I'm a loyal guy and you're a loyal guy as well. I mean, you're the one that kind of, like pushed it on me to start something else, do something else other than what I was doing within the industry, and kind of find that more of myself. Because you were saying, I'm obviously good at what I do, but I need to find more of that voice and be more of myself. And I'm feeling like I'm finding that here doing this podcast, talking to people, telling their stories, showing more of myself, and those types of things. So I do appreciate you for that.
No one's better at being you than you.
This is true. I know you don't like self-love, but you can love you can love yourself. That is okay. That is okay. We do like that.
Hey, we love the summer of Jones around here. There are times for self-promotion. They do exist, though. I will say that.
We'll keep self-promoting you, talking about all your new positions. Yeah, you mentioned you're covering OU, the team you grew up watching. Parents went there. You're from Oklahoma. What's made that enjoyable for you? Just looking back, this is a team that you watched growing up, and now it's like almost like a full circle moment for you.
It is. I look at the things that I've been fortunate to do and the teams that I've covered in my career, and on a full-time basis, there has been only 3 things prior to this job that I had not covered on a day-to-day end. And that was of the teams that I have rooted for, and teams/sports, we'll call it that. And that was the Oklahoma Sooners, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and NASCAR. And now I'm doing all three of those things with this new endeavor that I've taken upon, which is pretty crazy. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I got to cover the Chiefs not once, but at two different jobs. I got to cover the Royals when I was doing radio in Kansas. Got to do that. So, got to cover the University of Kansas when I was up there and going to school and working in radio. So this was like the last few boxes to check off of getting to fulfill those dreams of sorts. Here's one thing I would point to, Nick. You mentioned my parents. My mom, she went to the University of Oklahoma. She is, as the saying goes, sooner born, sooner bred. When I die, I'll be sooner dead. That describes my mother and my father, for that matter, in every extent of the word. And my dad, he's a diehard Sooner fan himself. He didn't go to school there because I don't know how many people know this, but he actually was working in the ministry as went to seminary. So that's the only reason why he did not go to Oklahoma. Otherwise, yes, he would have done the same exact thing. So, but they were season ticket holders and everything. So he's pretty much an honorary OU alum. We'll put it that way. So that's what I was raised into. Well, it was the sometime around 2000 after Oklahoma won the national championship. With the Josh Heupel led team, of course. Now he's at the University of Tennessee as their head coach, and it was spring practice. And there's a picture that I still have to this day where I am at an open practice, and Nick will be the first to tell you we don't get to enjoy open practices anymore.
No,
whether for the media or for fans, those days are long gone.
Or you get 10 minutes and they're just stretching and warming up.
Right. Those days do not exist anymore.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, back in 2000, when open practices existed, we had the chance as a family to go to an open OU practice. And there's a picture that my parents snagged of me standing right on the steps of the stadium overlooking the practice. And like this image kind of just was an embodiment for the way the rest of my life and career would go. Let me explain what I mean by this. My mom, she sent me home with this photo several months ago, actually. And she said, son, I know you've seen this photo 1,000 times, but I want you to go home with this because I want you to be reminded when you look at this of the vision that I have instilled in you to pursue every one of your dreams full-fledged with all your heart, mind, and strength, and to go about everything with that constant 100% effort and pursuit. And she said, when I see that photo, I see somebody that just has that vision there, that what could be. I've been of the belief for a long time. Life is 10% what's handed to you, 90% how you react to it. And this photo kind of resembles that of like, hey, this young kid, he's 4 or 5 years old, and he's looking on a football field, and the world is his oyster. What's he going to do to go grab that? And that's how I've lived my life is, grabbing the bull by the horns and taking those things. And so for me to get to now cover Oklahoma football, it's going back to the vision of that 4-year-old kid of making him proud and seeing his dreams come true. Getting to do this show now with former NBAer Jeremy Lamb covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's a team that, I would say of all my teams out there, I know I went to Kansas. I grew up an OU fan and everything. It's been easy to root for the Chiefs with Mahomes and all. But the number one thing I wanted was a Thunder championship more than anything else. And I got to see that firsthand this past year. Now I get to sit alongside Jeremy and tell the story of the next chapter for this Oklahoma City Thunder team. Like, how surreal is that? How lucky am I to get that opportunity? The sport of NASCAR, some people will never understand, the left turns and Robbins racing and all that. And some people just will never get it. And that's okay. But I love the sport. I've been passionate about it. I've been watching every year since 2004. I've been to tracks all over the place, from Daytona to Talladega to Vegas, Pocono, you name it. And that sport has been kind of a part of me. I've grown up with it, and I've seen it for all it's worth, and enjoyed it. And now you get to see that unfold in real time and tell that story. To me, it's I'm doing what I love, but I'm not forgetting where I came from either. And I feel like, Nick, and I think you could relate to this. Every single day I go to work, I owe it to the people that have invested in me to give my best effort and to work as hard as possible every day. From my mom and dad to my teachers I had in high school, to my mentors, to those that trained me in college, every step along the way. Not to get too biblical here, but what's the saying about all my steps are ordered or something. I feel like that everything I do is making those people proud, and is a payoff for the investment they made in me. And so that's where I'm at now. Is it's where the journey started, and it's taking it to the next level from here.
Quick shout out to Brady St Blends. They've got everything I've been loving lately: protein coffees and shakes, greens, even clean energy drinks. All the stuff that keeps me fueled and feeling good. And here's the best part. Just show that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and you'll get $1 off any drink. Seriously, it's that simple. $1 off. So next time you need a boost, grab your favorite blend, shake, or energy drink from Brady St Blends. Big thanks to them for teaming up, and let's get back to the show. It's all about the people that shaped you and helped you get to where you are today, and the connections you build up and things like that. It wasn't easy for you to get to this point, though. You made a lot of different stops, lots of different jobs as well. You not only were in radio that you mentioned in Lawrence, but you did local news. You covered the NFL full time. You've been able to show your versatility chops in every single job you've done. How has that versatility now helped you get to this point and doing this job?
I would say, Nick, there's not anything I can't do now. Yeah. Maybe I can't speak Spanish and go on Telemundo or something, but that's about it at this point. Like, now I'm writing more than I ever have before. I'll be frank, I haven't written this much since college. It's been a long time since I have done much writing at all. And in 3 weeks, I feel like I'm already a much better writer than I was just a few weeks ago. So, getting my chops on the writing side of things. I've done podcasting, I've done radio, I've done TV, I've done sports, I've done news, play-by-play, reporting, you name it. I've probably done it in some sort, a digital capacity, radio, TV, whatever it is. And to me, like, that sets me up where, there's nothing I can't do. Some might call me a master of none of sorts, but like, I love just, that versatility that in this day and age where we don't know what's going to happen with this industry, where things are going to go with, all these stations and outlets making cuts and changing how they do things, and the rise of social media with TikTok and Instagram and X and all of that. Nobody knows what the next chapter holds, and the rise of AI and everything. What are we all going to be doing to be replaced? But I know as long as I want to do this 20, 30, 40 years from now, there's always going to be a place for Tyler Jones in this industry with my skill set. I would put my skill set up against anybody. I can write. I can shoot. I can do play-by-play. I can host shows, radio, TV, you name it. I can anchor. I've done it all, and I'll continue to do it all. It kind of reminds me because, I'm sure you knew kids growing up that, they were frowned upon at playing multiple sports. Hey, go pick a sport. Be a baseball player, be a football player, be a basketball player, and play that sport year round. And it robbed them of opportunities to get to enjoy those other sports and make them better athletes all around. And for me, I feel like with what I've been able to dabble in, I think I'm best at play-by-play. That's probably what I enjoy doing most. But because I've been able to do all these variety of things, I've become this Swiss Army knife, this five-tool player that's not going to be limited in what he can do. And I feel like it's made me better all around in those other avenues. I mean, we both worked in TV, and there's a writing component to scripts and all that. And with me, doing a lot of writing right now, when I do more TV stuff again, that's only going to make the TV product better. When I do all these podcasts that I've been doing and making content that way, when I hop back on radio, that only makes me a better radio host. So every single thing I'm doing, it all works together. And I feel like that people are getting the best version of Tyler Jones that they can.
It's inspiring to see, man. I'm super proud. And the fact that I pop up and I see you everywhere all over social media doing whatever it is, that makes me happy as your friend. And I'm trying to be that way too, trying to be in everybody's feeds. I don't want to be annoying to people, but I at least want to, stay relevant, as the kids would say. With all those jobs though, how have you been able to craft your voice over time and find that yourself in this job?
I try to do two things every single day in whatever I do, and that is to entertain and inform. And some days are different than others. When you're covering hard news, there's not a whole lot of entertaining going on when we're talking about life or death situations.
No.
Your job is mostly to inform in that case. But with that said, of those mindsets of staying on course of sorts. For me, when I go about there and I do those things of staying, being my authentic self, letting my personality show, not trying to be somebody else, but be me. That's kind of my approach. And finding that purpose of sorts too. When I was working in news, Nick, it was easy to find a purpose every single day because that news is stuff that people need to know. Whether you're covering a tornado, saw plenty of those in Oklahoma and Kansas, that's coming by, and it's a situation where you need to tell somebody where they need to go to take shelter. You sense purpose and why you're there, why your job's important. And then as I transitioned to sports full time, I'll be frank, I kind of struggled to find that purpose. I'm like, am I wasting my time here? Am I not making an impact on people? And is this all about me and just doing this for myself, my own happiness here? And then my thought process quickly changed because I would be getting messages from people when I was at my previous job all over the country and all over the world that had come across my content. And they would thank me for just putting a smile on their face every day, for giving them valuable information that they cared about, but doing it in an entertaining mindset. Something effective. My kid, just lights up ear to ear when you come on the screen, or you're my wife's favorite broadcaster. She might leave me for you or something if that pops up. Stuff like that. Just makes you feel good. And to me, that's where I look at just trying to find that purpose in everything you do. And it's not all about you, but it's about the people that are consuming. I think something that Nick can relate to as well, that nothing is too small either. No story is too small. I've covered all the major stuff you can think of, right? From, I was at the Super Bowl this year. I've been to the college football playoffs, the Daytona 500. I've covered 3 different presidential visits from the last 3 presidents. A couple PGA championships, all that stuff's fantastic. And I'm very grateful that I've done that. You know, I'm hosting the Final Four pregame and postgame shows every year for TuneIn. I love all that. Don't get me wrong. But as Couzin can tell you, you know, when you go out and do a story on the high school volleyball player, that story is still important to her mom and dad and her aunt and uncle and her cousins. That means something to somebody. And like, that's kind of the approach in what I do, is that, you know, if I've agreed to do it, then I need to put my best effort in no matter what, because that matters to somebody out there that is taking the time to consume my content. You know, I think of, you know, one of my favorite lines, Brett Baer, who I've worked with on the NASCAR side of things, hosts Special Report on the Fox News Channel. He always ends his shows with, "Thank you for welcoming us into your homes tonight." And then he goes on to say, you know, we're going to be fair, balanced, and unafraid. And that's kind of reminder I have, is that with these stories or the things we do, people are taking time out of their day to see what you're doing, what you're talking about. And there's something valuable. There's something big about that I think, whether you're talking about somebody they care about or you're telling them something that they should care about, there's something that I think that we can't take for granted about this job. That this is an audience. These are people out there that are taking times out of their days, their lives, to watch what we do, and we owe it to them to do a good job and to do them right when we talk about the stories of people they care about in their communities.
Storytelling will always be the most important part of the job for me. Like you were saying, you know, I've covered Final Fours, I've covered FCS championship games, you name it, I've covered that as well. Just like you, those big time events. And while those are fun and it's great to be in those environments, there's not a lot of people coming up to you and thanking you for doing those broadcasts or being at those events. If you're telling somebody's story, like you're saying, little Susie or little Marissa or whoever, their story about whatever, battling cancer or some type of sickness or illness or family member died, things like that, and you're telling their story and sharing that with the world, you're going to get more feedback and response from things like those, because you're making an impact on people. Because the people that aren't even sports fans will watch that story and they'll feel something, and that feeling is what, you know, fuels me and gets me excited to do stories like that, even if it is, you know, smaller, like we said.
So I'll give you an example here.
Yeah.
So every year I work the Native American Basketball Invitational in Phoenix. It's called NABI for short. Been doing it for 5 years now. I go out there for a week every July. Sometimes I'm shaking my head about spending a week in the heat, 120 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona, in the valley, but that's a whole nother story. Nonetheless, it's a great time. But you get these kids, you know, we get 200 teams and over 200 tribal nations represented. And you know, I'm part of the Choctaw Nation myself. So this is a great opportunity for me to, you know, represent my tribe and heritage and also kind of give back of sorts too. But you get all these kids that some of them, they've never been off the reservation in their entire lives. And this is the very first time, and they're getting to play at PHX Arena or whatever they call that place now in downtown Phoenix. And
the Suns Arena, yeah.
Yes, where the Suns and the Mercury play.
Yep.
And just a couple days ago, they were playing in a gym where maybe they didn't even have electricity. You know, like, that's what I'm talking about here. And so, you know, for me, like, I go out there and I do this event. It's not the biggest event I do by any stretch of the imagination in a year, but it's a unique opportunity to tell these kids' stories, to put them on that platform, on that pedestal. And some of them, that might be the only time that they get that chance and get that spotlight and that attention, and it makes their life. It might be the best thing that's ever happened to them. Some of them, it's a chance to promote themselves and get their tape and get to be on AZ Family, the TV network that has the Phoenix Suns there. We've been on ESPN Plus in the past, and get some exposure. It might lead to a college scholarship of sorts. And I get to play a small role in bringing attention to that. Hell yeah. I love it. I mean, that to me is what it's all about. And I'll continue to do that as long as they have me. My buddy Jacob Toby, he's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs now. And he and I have been working that 3 years together. And, as long as they'll have us, we'll keep on doing that. And it's a big deal for Jacob and I to, kind of have that chance to not just be there and enjoy ourselves, but make an impact, make a difference. And using our jobs, our platforms to do that, it's super cool.
I know that's something that you take a lot of pride in, is your Native American heritage. How much do you carry that with you every day and use that and share that with others?
It's unique because there's not too many of us out here, Nick. I'm part of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I was talking to my tribal chief a couple months ago. They invited me out to a Texas Rangers game, and his name's Gary Batten. And Chief Gary, we had talked a couple times, but this is the first time we'd actually met in person. And he was telling me, right away, he's like, Tyler, I've been following your stuff, and I just want to say I thank you, and the Choctaw Nation is proud of you for what you've done to, carry on your legacy and represent us in the fashion that you have. And that meant the world to me to hear those words from him, that, what I was doing, just the little old me, was that much of a big deal to the chief of the whole tribe, and I look at, it's kind of like what I talked about with my own family. It's those that came before you that created a path, with not too many of us being out there, with me, not only representing those that created that pathway for me to be where I'm at now, but also opening up that door for the next generation of sorts that, hey, why can't you do what I do? Why spend your time on the reservation and, fighting for survival instead of giving yourself a chance and making it out and, finding what you love and finding something you're passionate about. I was speaking to a group of kids when I was out at Nabi giving a speech, and the thing that I told them, they asked, what advice would you give? And I said, I'm lucky. I found what I was passionate about at a very young age. And I have pursued that full on, and I haven't looked back at it. But I think the most important thing in that sense is you got to find what you're passionate about, what you love. And, whether it's, maybe you want to be a doctor, maybe you want to be a lawyer, maybe it's working for a nonprofit, or your passion might be something to do with your family, of sorts, but finding that thing. And for me, if I can be that voice, be that witness, for my people, and be somebody that they're proud of, and also make an impact, and help people along the way, then that's what it's all about. And, to me, it's humbling, just to play that small role and represent my people and continue to make them proud. They've done a lot for me, and I'll continue to do as much as I can for them as well, and see this thing grow as much as possible.
And hearing that, it's really inspiring for people, because you don't think you're making an impact, and then people come up to you and say things like that. It makes you want to keep going and keep on the good fight and the good grind and things like that. And through a lot of your experiences, you've met a lot of different people in the industry, a lot of people at the networks and insiders and things like that. For you, what's been the importance of networking for you?
Networking is a big deal. And, I'll say this, it's not for everybody. Some people are shy, they're introverted. It is not for everybody to go the networking route, but it's a necessary thing. And networking has meant everything for me. It's opened up all sorts of doors. early in my career, because I started the Jones Report podcast, a show I'm still doing to this day, when I was 15 years old. And you look around, and I was doing that show back then every single day, doing a half-hour show 5 days a week while I was in high school. And you listen to a radio show, somebody's job is to be a producer, booking guests, and that is their job. And so at 15 years old, okay, what is Tyler Jones going to do? Who in the hell is coming on Tyler Jones's podcast at 15 years old? Well, I'd find ways to get creative, right? And so it was, all right, let's message somebody, let's reply to their tweet, hope they respond, tell them to follow me so I can DM them, and then get them on the show. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we're taping the show because, oh yeah, I got school at 10 o'clock at night. And so can you be available? Can you do it live? Sorry, I can't pre-record it because I'm busy, with homework, working all those things. But it taught me a lot, not being afraid to reach out to people, not being afraid of rejection, and polishing my interview skills throughout the process, where when I got to college, I wasn't learning how to become a personality or how to interview people. That was something I was already ready to go from the jump and do those things. I was prepared from day one. And so, that to me, like, the networking has opened up all sorts of things, and, cold calling people. I remember my buddy Tim Brando, who I adore, and he's one of my biggest mentors to this
How
day.
do you do?
How do you do, Timmy B? When I was in college, he was calling a KU game, and I wanted to get him on my radio show. And I knew somebody that had his number, and so I asked for a favor. I said, hey, can you give me Timmy B's number so I can reach out to him, get him on the show? I'm outside my college dorm, Nick, and I cold call Timmy B. And he picks up and he answers right away. And I tell him, like, hey, I work for this commercial station. I do a daily show, and we know you're calling the KU game. I'd love to have you in the studio if you got time. And I said, we're not a big station by any means. I'm still in college and all this. And he's like, yeah, I'll come on your show. And so he flies in off the airplane, and his driver takes him to the studio, and he does an hour of radio with us in the studio. And like stuff like that, I could have never imagined. Joe Davis, who just called the World Series on Fox.
Respect. That's respect right there. Yeah.
Joe Davis, great guy. Same kind of thing. When I was in college, I reached out to him on Twitter, I guess now X, and convinced him to come on my show. And he invited me up to the broadcast booth, and I got to be there with him and Brady Quinn and put on the headset and feed them information. And they were asking me stuff as the game was going on. Hey, what's this called? Oh, that's Potter's Lake there. And help them out throughout the process. And he didn't have to do that for me. And so, all these people, like, it's amazing. They're real people. Like we put these people on a pedestal. We think, how big they are, whatever, but it's just like the rest of us at the end of the day. And I've had those experiences with broadcasters, with athletes, and, you name it, coaches. They've been good to me, and I've been thankful for that. And so for me now going forward, eventually you and I, cuz we're going to reach UNC status. And I look forward to paying it forward and being that guy to the next generation, and hopping on their shows or helping out in any way I can, and doing those things, because I had so many people help me. I owe it to them to do the same thing, because I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for those that had my back. And I'm going to have other people's back as well.
Kevin Harlan, one of those guys too. When I was in North Dakota, I went down to the Vikings game when Carson Wentz was on the Eagles, and then Adam Thielen, who was from the viewing area on the Vikings. we're playing each other, and I knew Kevin Hart was calling the game, so I went up to the booth, and he's like, "Hey man," like, and I introduced myself, and I said I went to KU, and he's like, "Hey, let's get a picture," and then he let me stay up there for a quarter and let me watch the game with him, and he was so nice, and he gave me his contact information and things like that, so maybe we'll get him here on Cousins Conversations with like the importance of networking and things, going out of your comfort zone. That was something that went out of my comfort zone. I didn't know where the booth was, but I was on a mission and I went to find it, and I made sure I said hello. And that just shows the human side of people, even though the position that they're in. And here we are, 49 and a half minutes in. We haven't even talked about X's and O's or analysis or anything like that. We've showed that we're human, even though we're in the sports business. But we can't end the show without talking about sports. So let's do that. Big news with your Sooners is coming off that big win over Tennessee. That was kind of that big SEC win that Oklahoma was needing to stay in that conversation for SEC championship, for college football playoffs. And John Mateer finally had a good game coming back from injury, and that defense is showing. What can we say about these Sooners going forward here, Tyler?
So looking at this Oklahoma team, it's pretty fascinating. It's year 4 of the Brent Venables era, and there was a lot of pressure on Brent Venables entering 2025 about taking this team to the next level. That Venables in his first 3 seasons had underachieved for a variety of different reasons. The transition to the SEC wasn't easy for one. They had their struggles on the offensive line last year. There's a lot you can point to. The program lost a lot of guys when Lincoln Riley departed and went to USC and took a lot of players, including Caleb Williams, with him. There was just a lot to get this program on track of where it needed to be. And now, going into 2025, you brought in John Mateer from Washington State, along with his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. And the defense had already taken some huge steps forward under Brent Venables compared to when they were just god-awful under Lincoln Riley. And so the thing that people pointed to with this Oklahoma team was, hey, yeah, they have their issues. The offensive line got some problems. Need to figure out the quarterback situation, the offense, and all that. But the defense is so impressive that you can build upon that. And now you just need to figure out the other pieces, and you can really get this thing going. Well, then you get to the start of this year. The offensive line's improved. John Mateer looks much better than what they saw from Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins last year. So that was a big improvement. Ben Arbuckle's offense, not perfect, but it was effective. And comparably speaking to what they had under Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley the year prior. And then you get to a lull in the year where John Mateer gets banged up, has the hand injury, and he comes back and he wasn't his self. And he said that it wasn't anything to do with the injury. There was more so the rust and trying to figure himself out. And they had some problems with the run game. I felt like that DeMarco Murray, their running backs coach, Sooner legend, former NFL Offensive Player of the Year, I felt like he was kind of playing the wrong backs at times. I wanted to see more Xavier Robinson. Well, they start to adjust some things. They use Xavier Robinson more and stopped trying to force the outside zone running game so much and focused on running between the tackles and up the middle, and that paid off. The run game's improved. John Mateer, I felt like, had a breakthrough in the second half of that Tennessee game, and he's played much better. And so now Oklahoma finds themselves, caught up in a bit of a tough spot still. You have those 2 losses against Texas and Ole Miss. And so that means that every week going forward feels like an elimination game for OU. A third loss, and they're probably not going to be in the college football playoff at this point. It just seems highly unlikely. Granted, the Sooners have the toughest schedule of anybody in college football, but the way things have gone, it looks a lot easier now than it did even a few weeks ago with what they have to finish up here. You take on Alabama after a bye week. Bama's going to be tough, but OU beat Bama last year in Norman, shocked the world with that. Then you play Mizzou at home. Mizzou got the best of the Sooners last year, but OU should be favored in that game. And then you play LSU at home on Thanksgiving weekend. And this was a team that had high aspirations under Brian Kelly, top 3 team at one point in the year. Garrett Nussmeier was a Heisman contender and all of that. And they have completely fallen apart. You should win that. So now the path to the playoff for Oklahoma, winning those 3 games, it's not unachievable. You have to beat a team in Bama you beat last year, and then you got to win 2 games that you're favored against, and we're talking about Oklahoma in the playoff at that point. And with their defense, and if John Mateer continues to get back on track and plays to the version that we saw at the beginning of the season, the offensive line gets healthier, the defense continues to be stout, they keep getting better on that in the run game. If Oklahoma gets in the playoff, then watch out. Let's see what this team can do. I'm not expecting them to be a national title contender by any stretch of the imagination, but I think after what was a disappointing start to the Brent Venables era, there's reason to be optimistic now. You can see where this thing is going in the right direction with those improvements that we talked about, them adapting to the SEC. Next year's schedule is going to be better for them. The recruiting front has looked fantastic. 2027, they have the #1 recruiting class in the country, which is just unheard of at OU. So I like what I'm seeing. As the late Kobe Bryant would say, the job is not finished. It's far from finished. But I think that you can sit here and you can feel like, hey, Oklahoma is trending upwards. That in this day and age where coaches are getting fired left and right, down the road, Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, Brian Kelly, James Franklin, and others, Oklahoma, barring a major collapse, is not moving on from Brent Venables anytime soon. They feel very confident about the direction they're going forward from here.
Oklahoma figured it out. Kansas football, though, on the other hand, I think they're still trying to figure things out. Now, I will give credit. When we went to school there, they're barely winning any games. Lance Leipold takes them out of the dumpster, makes them a relevant program. But now fans are talking about, okay, we're beating the teams we're supposed to beat, but we're not winning that big game. And you look at that 2 weeks ago with the Kansas State game. You think this is the year to beat Kansas State, and then you have a quarterback like Jalen Daniels who's now been around for 6 years, and I don't think any KU fans would disagree with me that they were ready to move on from Daniels last year. And it kind of showed in that game, he's making a lot of mistakes, not really, it's kind of like Hunter Dickinson in basketball, great games against the bad teams. And then when it comes to the big game, not totally there. So what do we think about this KU football team going forward? Obviously, they're 1 win away from being bowl eligible, which is great. But to win those big games going forward and not to be the team that you're just supposed to win the games you're supposed to win, how does KU football move forward now?
I think the big step that they need to focus on next is getting physical. When you're the University of Kansas in the early days of the Lance Leipold era, as they were trying to put this program on track, you didn't have what you needed when it came to winning at the line of scrimmage. We've seen a few guys that have been difference makers, your Bryce Cable Dews of the world here and there, but not a consistent basis. And, the skill position guys have been able to really rise. I covered Devin Neal when he was in high school.
Oh, yeah. Legend, Lawrence Legend.
I said at the time, this is the best high school player I've ever seen in the state of Kansas. And sure enough, he went on to be a superstar at KU and was a big part of, why the program rose in the fashion that it did. He was part of bringing that back, and that was something he embraced. You can find the skill position guys. Mark Mangino used to say all the time that he viewed his players not as playing certain positions, but as athletes. And I'm going to find a spot to plug in and play you where you belong. And so KU kind of took on that Mangino mentality of, hey, we're just going to find those guys and we're going to find a spot for them to make it work. And, it wasn't just offense, but also defensively with the Kobe Bryants, the Melo Dotsons of the world. The list goes on and on. But then when you take on some of these upper tier teams, you struggle with the line of scrimmage. And Lance has done a really good job when it comes to the transfer portal and getting guys there. But the hardest thing to add in the portal is offensive linemen and defensive linemen. You pretty much have to develop them from high school in the ground up. And so this was cause I would say kind of the last box to check.
Mm-hmm.
Like quarterbacks, you can find. Some of those other positions we mentioned, you can find in the portal. But the offensive and the defensive line in the trenches takes the most amount of time to fully develop and put together. And so I think what Kansas needs to do going forward, it's just about winning at the line of scrimmage. Because Lance has proven that he can find the skill position guys. He's certainly shown he can develop quarterbacks. He's got an eye for the quarterback position, not just Jalen Daniels, but Jason Bean. And we've seen the other quarterbacks that he's played in the past too, that they've all played very well. He knows what he's doing there. But developing at the line of scrimmage, that's the next step. If they can find those linemen and win up front, their future is going to be very bright. And one thing I would say too, for my KU people, and I know I'm not covering the Jayhawks anymore.
It's okay. We can have opinions. We're fans now.
Yeah, I still love KU.
Yeah, I love KU as well. Yeah, of course.
But let me tell y'all something real quick. Maybe this is where I'm about to get my Charles Barkley out or something here. Can we lay the hell off of Lance and this staff? I'll tell it like it is, right? If I got a problem, I'm not afraid to say something about it. But this idea that Lance isn't the right guy, that he can't get the job done, all this, have we forgotten already where we came from, of where this program was at and how far they've come at this point? It's the job's far from over. There's plenty to be done, but let Lance see that vision out and let him be the man to allow it to come to fruition here. And he's made some mistakes. I didn't like the Jeff Grimes hire last year by any stretch. Maybe there's a world where Andy Kolaniki could come back now that the Penn State situation has gone the way it has. But you get the idea there. To me, like Lance, at the end of the day, what Kansas needs, sure, we would love Big 12 titles. We'd love to see this school in the college football playoff. They're investing when it comes to money from David Booth with the $300+ million and the stadium and all that. All those things are good. But at the end of the day, we just need a team that goes to a bowl game every year.
Yep.
Lance can do that. And he's already shown that he's capable. He's been to a couple bowl games. Trust the process. Let Lance do his thing. And, the more that they invest, the more that they, find those improvements at the line of scrimmage, this program is going to be in good shape going forward. And Lance deserves that right to see this to fruition of what he's done to get to this point and continue to take this program going forward from here. I think that the sky's the limit under Lance. I think they can compete for Big 12 titles and college football playoff appearances and all that, but it's got to be one step at a time. It's not going to be overnight.
And the other coach that we trust in is Bill Self. And we're seeing glimpses of this after this first game and the exhibition game with Louisville, with Darren Peterson, the number one recruit and potential number one draft pick coming up in this year's class. He only played 26 minutes in the opener against Green Bay Monday night, but he's 21 points. He's creating the offense. He's getting up and down. This is a young team. Usually Bill doesn't like his young players, but you have a point guard now that you can build an offense around, and you're also seeing that he can set up Fleury Badinga. Fleury last night had a career high in points. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from KU basketball, and this is coming 2 years after the NIL era has really started in college basketball, and you're seeing Bill, bring these guys in, but they're not really fitting his style. Now you're seeing some players that are fitting his style, and they're on the younger end, so he can build them up a little bit.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see what Bill's done. There's a certain guy, I think we all know you're referring to, called Hunter Dickinson.
Yes.
Who was paid a large sum of NIL money, and it kind of threw the whole entire roster for a curve.
I will call him a ball stopper. Well, that's what we'll call him, a ball stopper.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
And, now in the post-Hunter era, of Kansas getting back to their identity. Bill Self always been a defensive guy. Hunter, of course, was never a defensive specialist by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to get back to being a defense-first team. And so
that's a Bill Self team.
Yeah. And
defense first.
You get the defense going and start there. And you find guys, you get these young guys, players you brought in from the portal, all of them to buy into what Bill is preaching, what he's selling with the defense. And then you grow from that standpoint, from that stretch going forward from there. That is kind of the mentality. That's the goal of what Kansas is going to be looking to do going forward from here. And look, I love Bill. I do. And he's a Hall of Fame coach, one of the greats to ever do it. But I feel like this year we're going to learn a lot when it comes to Bill here, because the way the transfer portal has gone, things have changed. Kansas has taken a step back, and you can't blame all of that on Hunter Dickinson. There's some accountability that goes to Bill Self in that sense. Bill, one of my favorite quotes from him that he has said for numerous years is, at the University of Kansas, faces change, but expectations don't.
Yep.
And even though Kansas hasn't won a Big 12 title in a couple of years, hasn't won a national title in a few seasons, those are still the expectations. That is still the mindset. It's not just to be a top 25 team and to make the tournament every year, which is what they do anyway, but it's to go compete at the highest level. And I think for Bill, this year, if they don't show any sign of life that they're ready for that they can get back to the expectations of the standard that's been set by Bill there, then maybe it's a different direction. I'm not saying by any stretch that Bill's getting fired. That's not going to happen, barring some big scandal of sorts.
Yeah.
But
lifetime contract, so
right.
Not going anywhere.
Whether it's him, doing a TV job or taking another role in the administration, I think they brought back Jacques Vaughn for a reason.
I think you mold him into the head coach. Yeah, eventually.
Jacques very well could have been an NBA assistant and been an NBA head coach again in no time. But I think that they're potentially grooming him to be that next guy. And so that, to me, if Bill doesn't get this program back on track this year, then I could very well see a change happening. Not him being forced out by any stretch, but Bill saying, you know what, the game, maybe it has passed me by. Maybe I need to go do something else and give somebody else a shot to go meet the expectation of the standard we've set here.
We're in agreement there. Jacques Vaughn, possibly the next head coach after Bill Self. And we'll see with this team. They're going to get tested early. They have North Carolina coming up here on Friday at the end of the week as their second game of the season. I want to ask you, though, Tyler, are the Oklahoma City Thunder a dynasty in the NBA? Now, are we going to see more championships from them? I was watching the Starting Five Netflix series where they followed around different players from the NBA. This year it was Kevin Durant. Jason Tatum was last year. They had Jaylen Brown this year, and then they had SGA. And I got to say, I mean, I don't know how you can hate SGA. He just seems like a nice guy, family guy, loves his team, loves Oklahoma City. The fans love him. What can we see from this young team going forward? How many more NBA championships are we going to see from this team?
Man, sky's the limit with this Oklahoma City team. I get happy. I smile just thinking about this this franchise and the direction that they're going. And it's so stable. It's built so much better. Sam Presti has learned from his previous mistakes that he made in the last regime. From trading James Harden to Kevin Durant walking in free agency and not taking care of that contract before that, letting it get to the point, all those different things, right? Sam Presti's learned from those things, giving those max extensions to SGA and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and making sure those guys are there for a long time. But even beyond that, the system that's in place, one thing I didn't like with the previous regime was the head coaches did not have control over what was going on with their game plans and their rosters, from Scott Brooks to Billy Donovan, both of them successful head coaches. But there was times where they were overruled quite a bit by Russ and KD, where those guys were doing what they wanted and didn't play a real half-court offense, a lot of ISO ball, which was just beyond frustrating, and you could never get KD and Russ on the same page. Well, Mark Daigneault, when he speaks, these players listen. And it doesn't matter how much more money they make compared to Mark Daigneault, he demands their respect. And he's earned their trust. There's several of these players that played under him when he was a G League head coach, Alex Caruso being one of them, for an example. By the way, thanks for Caruso, everybody in Chicago out there.
Thanks for Josh Giddey. We
won the trade. So
I don't know about that.
The championship says otherwise. They don't win the title.
Yeah, but
they don't win the title with Josh Giddey. They win the title with Alex Caruso.
Hey, we were just looking for a superstar. We have one now as Bulls fans. So
superstar, sure, okay. I like Josh though. I do.
Triple double machine.
Yeah, he's the JV Russ, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Russ Jr. there.
We'll let the Bulls fans in the comments decide that.
Yeah, but with this Thunder team, you got a coach that demands respect, that has earned that. The players trust him. They've seen how he operates, and now, like, as long as these guys stay healthy, it's only going to get better. That's the thing for me. I've talked about this numerous times, is that let's just say that these guys are relatively healthy going forward for years to come. In all likelihood, this is what's dangerous for the rest of the NBA. That Thunder team that won the title last year is probably going to be the worst Thunder team on paper for the next decade. SGA's getting better. His prime is really just now starting. Jalen Williams still has a long ways to go. I think that he's going to end up being better than Scottie Pippen someday. Chet Holmgren, man, he's going to be an all-star caliber player. And the other guys around him too. Cason Wallace. You still got Lou Dort there. We mentioned Caruso, all these others, and they got all these draft picks as well that are still coming. So buckle in, strap up, folks. It's going to be a fun ride. I don't know how many titles they're going to win, but they're not going anywhere. And the only thing that can beat the Oklahoma City Thunder is themselves. This is going to be an historic run. And, everybody's been trying to figure out what to do with this. How do you work around the second apron? And it has led to, 7 straight different NBA champions? Mm-hmm. Well, Sam Presti got his guys locked up and kept all those draft picks and did it all within working the rules of the second apron. The Thunder are playing chess, and everyone else is playing checkers.
All right. Can't think of a better way to end with that. That's a very good exclamation point. And we'll listen to Tyler along the Thunder season as it goes on, just getting started 2 weeks into the NBA season. Tyler, where can people follow you for all your jobs?
Easiest way is at Tyler Jones Live, X, Instagram, Facebook. I'm posting all my different content there. From whatever I do, from podcasting to articles, play-by-play stuff. It's all right there in one place. And, as we begin this new chapter, overseeing this Operation Studio Soapbox, this is really only the beginning. There's going to be so much more to come. And if you're looking to partner with me, if you want to work with me in some way, shape, or form, drop me a line, hit me up anytime. Would love to chat and see what I could do to potentially help you out.
Tyler's a great guy, as we know, learning from this episode. So, yeah, go ahead and hit him up. He's a good guy. And appreciate you guys all tuning in. And Tyler, thanks for hanging out with me on Cousins Conversations, man.
Cousin, appreciate you, my guy. I'll be happy to do this anytime. Glad we finally got to knock this out. Everybody go watch, subscribe, follow this show and what Nick's doing here, and excited to see where he goes forward.
Thanks for the plug, Tyler. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button below, and have a great week, everybody. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment. Have a great week, everybody.